Hello and welcome back to another video. In the last one, I believe we handled horizontal, so today we're gonna do vertical. Let us just get started by heading into our action bar settings widget. And on here, we're gonna go to our vertical padding. And we're gonna do a on mouse capture and a on value changed. Here we're going to, we're gonna make it a function. We're gonna call it update bar vertical padding. It is going to have an input of a float. And I'm just gonna call it padding. Right click, promote to local vert padding. And then we're gonna get our selected action bar. We're going to get find right index based off game ID game instance. We're going to check into a branch. And if this is true, then we're going to get our selected action bar. Get our uniform grid panel. And we're going to set slot padding. So this is on true. Expand this, and what are we going to set it to? Well, we're going to set the... We're going to get our game instance. So href, game instance ref. Get action bar settings, and we're going to get a copy at the index that we found here, and we're going to set the vertical padding to the incoming line, so local vert pad, that is the top and the bottom, and the right and left is the horizontal padding, so plug that into the saved like so. If it is false, we can return, and after we have set the slot padding, then we want to set the array element, so get your action bar settings, get a copy again at the found index, so we can just go like so. We can split this, get our action bar settings, set array element, plug that in like so. The ID that we want to set it to is the found one. I'm going to size that to fit, split this structure pin, plug in the items accordingly, so enabled to enabled, max slots, max horizontal, hor padding goes in, skipping the vert padding, item position, keybinds, action bar name, and rotation, and the vert padding is going to be our local vert padding. Then we can update selected action bar and return. We can compile and go back to our event graph, plug in our update vertical padding, and as always we're going to save action bars. Hit play. Now we can add some vertical padding to our box. It's going to save. And that is good. Now we're going to do the same for the horizontal padding. So we're going to do on our horizontal padding, we're going to do on value change first. On mouse capture, and we're going to duplicate our update vertical padding and call it update bar horizontal padding. And this is basically just going to be reversed. So we can actually keep the naming convention, but it's going to be confusing. So on here we're going to do our local variable. We're going to call it local forward padding. That is going to be the left and the right. The top and the bottom is now the vertical. Unplug this and plug it into the hor padding and plug the vertical in like so. Pile back into the graph. Update bar horizontal padding and save the action bar. Hit play, give it a shot, and they are there and they are saved. So now we have a way to do that. Now we're going to get our slot opacity. Again, we're going to have a on value changed and a on mouse capture end. So on value change, we're going to make it a function. I'm going to call it update bar opacity. It's going to have a float input. I'm going to call it value opacity. promote the local opacity, get our selected action bar, get our uniform grid panel, and set render opacity. And also we do need to do the find right ID first, so get our selected action bar, find right index base of game instance into a branch. This is false, we return. If this is true, then we're gonna set the opacity to the local opacity, and then we're gonna get our find here again, get our HUD ref, get our game instance ref, get action bar settings, and I just realized you could copy the same ones as the horizontal ones. I apologize, we are remaking it though. We're gonna set it to the index that we found. I'm gonna split this structure pin size to fit, and then we're also going to get a copy at the index that we found, split that open, ID enabled, max slots, max horizontal slots, vertical padding, horizontal padding, opacity is blank. Plug in the rest of the items like so. And the item slot opacity is the local opacity. Then we can update selected bar, update selected action bar, and return back into the graph. Now we can call our update bar opacity like so, and save our action bars like so. Hit play. Now we can make the opacity go down. Again, as you can see, I think this is acting weird because we have mouse user step. We don't want that probably. Yeah, mouse user step should not be on this one. I am using the uniform grid panel here, as you can see, so the border is still showing. If you want it to be the entire thing, then you would do the slot opacity instead of the uniform grid panel. So you would change out this part to maybe set render opacity of our entire widget. Now we can hide the entire thing, and I think we should just go for it like that. And finally, we have our scale. So let us get started with that. On scale, we are gonna add a on value changed and a on mouse capture and we're gonna duplicate our update bar opacity. We're gonna call it update bar scale. Change this local variable to local scale. And in here, we're going to do selected action bar, set render scale. To be that, and plug in the local scale. Plug in the array element. Now we're going to remove this item opacity, and now we're going to plug in the local scale instead. Going back to the event graph, plug in our scale on mouse capture, and you know that we need to save. Now can hit play. On scale, we can now scale it as we will, and the paddings and everything will be joining as well. And that is that. Now let us go into our show bar name. On here, we are going to uncheck state changed. We're going to make it a function. We're going to call it update bar enabled title. It is going to have an input of a boolean, which is going to be called enabled. I'm going to promote this to local enabled. And in here, we want to find index. The action bar ref is the selected action bar into a branch. If this is false, we return. If this is true, well, we're going to get our HUD ref, get our game instance ref, get action bar settings, and we're going to get a copy at the found index. And set the array element. to the index that we found. ID enabled, max slots, max horizontal slots, vertical padding, horizontal padding, opacity, scale, position, keybinds, actionbar name enabled is going to be blank. Actionbar name and rotation goes in though. Then we want to update selected action bar. And then we can return. However, we also do need to plug in the local. So let's get that into there like so. Now we can go back to the graph and we can update enable bar title like so. And this time we're going to add our save at the end of that. Our bar name, let's actually make it so that this is visible. That is not going to be more visible. That is going to be probably more visible. Right, so that is our bar name. We are also going to make it so that you can change the name of the bar. And honestly, we should also make it in the fucking center. Text is going to be anchored in the middle, like so. So now our text is there. Set into our action bar settings, and that was going to our action bar name here, and on text committed. Going to make a new function. We call it update bar title name. It's going to have an input of a text. Text is going to be name. Promote this to local name. Get the selected action bar. Find right index. Go into a branch. And to be fair, actually delete your update bar name title. Duplicate your bar enabled and call it for update bar title name. Remove the local enabled. Change the input to a text. Call it name. Promote the local name. Plug it in like so. Enabled goes into enabled like so, and the name is now the local name. Then we can go back to our designer, not into our event graph, sorry. And we can update the name. And of course we need to save the action bars at the end. So now we can change it. I don't know why you would, but like you can basically. So this could be my potions. And then if I go to AB2 now, I make it enabled, and then I can change this to my equipment. I honestly don't know why you would want this, but now you have the ability to. You can also make different settings here, like scale of the name and stuff. You should be able to figure that out yourself though, based on what we have done currently. And the final thing that we're going to make here today is going to be our key bindings. If you click the key binds button on clicked, you're going to make it a function. I'm going to call this one toggle AB settings window keybinds. Now in here, we're going to get ourselves. We're going to get visibility, and we're going to switch on that visibility. If it is visible, we're going to set visibility to be hidden. If it is hidden, we're going to set it to be visible. We're going to make a variable. I think we're going to use it. So we're going to say keybind mode. So if it's hidden, then we're going to say keybind mode is true. And if it's false, then keybind mode is false. We're going to get HUD ref, get player ref, and set movement mode. So on the top one here, we're going to set it to be none. On the bottom one, I'm going to set it to be walking. Then we're going to make a new widget. Going to your AB folder, systems, Actionbar system interface. And in here, we're going to make a new widget blueprint called WBP keybind widget. And our keybind widget will consist of a vertical box, the side on screen. And inside this vertical box, we're going to have a border. and another border, and a text inside of that border. The first border, we're going to have a brush color a bit like so, and we're going to have a brush color on the second one a bit darker like so, and then the text itself is going to be regular. I'm going to do, I'm going to leave it at 24, and I'm going to do the color down to like a darker. This is going to say key binding mode, and we're going to center that to the middle on the border. We're going to add a size box to our vertical box. This size box is going to have an override of 500 by 100. It is going to have a text inside of it, so I'm going to duplicate this other text and this other border, this entire border actually. This text is going to be 20 maybe, and I'm going to write hover over a button, then press a key to set its binding. To clear a button's current key binding, press escape while hovering. Actually, don't need while hovering, press escape. This needs to be wrapped, auto wrapped. And then I'm gonna center that, maybe something like this. Then going to add a button into my vertical and a text into the button. This is gonna be my confirm button. Confirm button text, which is gonna say confirm. I'm gonna center that border like so. Now my keybinds widget, it needs the HUD ref, so let's get that. WBP HUD. And on confirm clicked, we're gonna get our HUD ref, get our action bar settings, and toggle keybinds. Set into our WBP HUD for a second. Get our keybind widget, add that into our canvas, size it to content. I'm going to move to the middle and make it hidden. Now hit play, that's not going to do anything probably, so let's get into our AB settings and into our event graph. On click keybinds button, we're going to toggle keybinds. Didn't actually do anything because we haven't set anything else here. So after we have set the movement modes, we need to get the keybind widget, and the first one is going to be set to visible. Second one is going to be set to hidden, and now we need to do a new event dispatcher. So this is going to be disp underscore keybind mode enable, and then we need a disp underscore keybind mode disable. On the top one, we are going to call the enable, and on the bottom one, we're going to call our disable. Now, who is going to listen for this? For this is going to be our WBP inventory slot. Go to the graph. On our construct, before everything on our construct, we're going to get our HUD ref. We're going to get action bar settings. We're going to bind event to keybind mode enable. Bind event to keybind mode disable. And create event. Create matching event. This is just gonna move it up there and create matching event. So the first event is gonna be the keybind mode enabled. Second one, disabled. And on enabled, we're going to get our slot image. We're going to set brush tint color to be, let's do a, I don't know, something like this, with a alpha of something like that. And then we're going to set visibility on ourself to be not hit testable, self and all children. The disable, we're gonna set brush tint color back to a white with a 1 in alpha, and we're gonna set ourself to be visible. But if I now go to play, I go into keybinds, that has now gone into keybind mode. I want to override on mouse enter, and I want to override on mouse leave, and I want to get HUD get the action bar settings, and I want to check if we are in keybind mode. And if we are in keybind mode on the enter, I'm going to set the tint to a red with a 0.7 alpha maybe, and then go to our HUD and do we have hovered slot? No, we don't. So on our leave as well, let's do that first. On our true, on mouse leave, we are still in keybind mode, so we wanted to go back to this specific color. I'm just gonna duplicate this linear here, hex linear, and that moves the color back. In our HUD sorry, I want to make a new variable. This one is going to be hovered slot, going to be of type WBP inventory slot. And let's go back to our inventory slot now. And we can get our HUD set hovered slot. Do that of ourselves. Then we can set hovered slot to be blank on the other one. Now let's go to our HUD, where we set our HUD refs, get our keybind widget, set HUD refs. What we could do is leave it like so, and then on mouse button down, we do a HUD ref, get action bar settings, get keybind mode, and we check if we are in a keybind mode. So if we're not in a keybind mode, we continue. However, if we are in a keybind mode, we return with a handled. That could take care of our problems. Now we're not in a keybind mode, I could drag. Now we're in a keybind mode, I can't drag. Well, actually I could drag. No, that was not a drag, that was a click. So on mouse button up, let us add the same thing here. So let's get on mouse button down, copy this, and on mouse button up, and get that in here. So if we're not in keybind mode, we continue. If we are, we return with a handled. And now if I go into keybinds, I can now do this, and I cannot actually pick that up. So now what we want to do is head over into our third person character and quickly just set up a handle for this so we can move on, and that's going to be the end of this video. So we're going to add a any key here, and then we're going to add a function called handle hotkey update. It's going to have an input type key, call it hotkey. And I just realized that this is going to be a very long sequence that we need to do here, so we are not going to do it today. I'm going to stop the video here. This is going to be called our local hotkey, and we're going to end it here and finish this function the next time. Okay, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye bye.